Good evening, YouTube family. Um, just wanted to come here tonight and make a quick video, okay, in reference to maturity. The title of this video is going to be How Mature Are You? And the reason why I'm deciding to do this video in regards to maturity, because oftentimes I've come across people in general who so passionately and so adamantly like to speak on how grown up and how mature they are. Um, but yet, when faced with certain situations, they're never able to demonstrate and show through their actions how mature they can be. They can speak about how mature and how grown they are verbally, but when push comes to shove, or when it's time to show that again through their actions, they're not able to show it. So at any given time, if you find yourself in a situation where you're constantly speaking on how mature you are, how grown up you are, but yet you can't never conduct yourself in a mature, dignified, classified, and grown like manner, then you're really not as mature as you proclaim to be. And a lot of the times, people in general, and I can say this from experience because I've dealt with this issue myself, not having the spirit of humility, but a lot of people tend to have a bit much pride when it comes down to having humility and being humbled and being patient in many situations, no matter what it is. And a lot of times you have to realize and understand that if you're a person who have dealt with this or dealt with having the spirit of humility, being humbled and as patient as you need to be, always remember that being humbled, being patient does not show a sign of weakness. And I know many people think that it does, but it does not show a sign of weakness. Actually, being humbled actually shows you have the uttermost strength from the inside out. And being humbled and patient causes God to move more on your behalf, and it causes things to come in place for you a whole lot more than it would if you chose not to be as patient and humble as you would need to be. Um, in life, I'm quite sure you guys know by now, in life, there's nothing that you can avoid. You're always going to have that ignorant person or that ignorant group of people that they're just on this earth to be negative minded, to be disrespectful, to, always want to pinpoint your flaws, even though you could have done a million and one things that can outweigh and that will always outweigh any flaws that you have or any mistakes that you may have ever made. But their sole purpose is to be on this earth again, to always be negative minded, to pick out your faults, to pick out and pinpoint the mistakes that you made. So that's why they're here to, as far as keeping you constantly underneath the spotlight, if that makes sense. So my word of advice to anyone struggling with this, always keep in mind that when you're being humbled and you're being patient, it's never for the person that's constantly giving you unnecessary grief and negativity, disrespect, but it's more so for you. Um, and oftentimes, again, just going back to maturity and being grown, a lot of things that I hear people say too, especially when they're in situations where they should be mature, but they're not, is that, well, oh, the devil's busy, or why is God allowing me to go through this? And a lot of the times, yes, at times the devil does work, the devil's busy. Of course, he wouldn't be the devil if that wasn't the case. But a lot of the times, a lot of the situations that we're faced with and that we go through in life has nothing to do with the devil. Because if you really think about it, the enemy cannot do anything to you that God doesn't allow. So if anyone who is spiritual and whatever, if you actually study and read your Bible, we're going to take it back to the book of Job. In the book of Job, everything that the enemy did to Job and his family, okay, he actually had to get direct permission from God in order for it to happen. But here's the catch. God gave the enemy permission to come after Job and his family in so many different ways because why? The hand of God was already over Job and his family life no matter what. So, and that's the blessing. So, a lot of the times, too, God will have you, it's just like in school. If you're constantly failing a course in school, what's going to happen? You're going to repeat that course until you get it right, until you do what you got to do to keep your grades up for that course, to pass that course and move on, right? So it's like repeated classes when it comes down to the facts of life, when it comes down to dealing with God. God will allow us to go through situations over and over again. And the reason why we go through those situations over and over again, because it's a principle behind it. There's a method, there's knowledge that needs to be learned behind it, but because we're not getting that point, because we're not understanding the knowledge behind it, or understanding what it is that God is trying to teach us, what it is that God is trying to show us, he allows us to continue to go through it. So what we do, we get upset with God. The enemy it has nothing to do with God. It has nothing to do with the enemy. It has everything to do with you as an individual. It has everything to do with you and your level of maturity. And a lot of people in general, and I'm speaking to myself too, again, because I've had this issue before, a lot of people in general have a hard habit of submitting. Okay? You have a hard habit of submitting, whether you feel that it's going to make you look weak-minded, make you look like a punk. Let me tell you something. Being too prideful can cause you automatically to be weak-minded. Being too prideful can cause you to look so much like a punk, because instead of you just taking the time to learn from the facts of life, and instead of you taking the time to submit yourself and to be humbled and patient and just to go through the process with the guidance of God, you want to rush everything. You guys want microwave blessings, right at the spur of the moment. And when you're dealing with God, it's never going to happen that way. So I would encourage anybody who has difficulties with it, difficulties with being humble, difficulties with submitting, pray to God, ask for guidance, because he's never going to steer you wrong. Okay? And just use that, and just, stay prayed up and let God guide you, because I'd rather walk through the storm, okay, with God on my side, right? Because God's always leading, and get to whatever blessings and opportunities that God has for me to receive at the end of every trial, at the end of every lesson, at the end of every storm. Okay? And a lot of times, so just dealing with people in general, again, that's going back to people that are negative. It gets in life, and it gets to a point that you have to start having what I call the hell with you type of mindset. Okay? Have the hell with you type of mindset with negative mind people, because again, they're only on this earth to be negative minded. They could not be positive minded towards you or towards anybody, no matter how hard they try. So, and you don't let people like that phase you. Don't let them get up. You don't let them, get you upset to the point that you get out of your character and you forget that why God has you here. You forget that you're here for a bigger calling, for a bigger purpose. So you have to submit yourself. You have to be more humble and more professional. And I don't want anybody to take, or to misconstrue what I'm saying. I'm not saying be a pushover. I'm not saying let anybody walk all over you. Yes, you speak up for yourself, you stand up for yourself. But again, do it with dignity, do it with class, and you can still do it with the spirit of humility on you. You don't have to be all buck wild and crazy with it. Also, too, and it's a lot of stuff that I see throughout 2017 that's been going on even way before 2017. Again, this goes back to people who claims how mature and grown up they are. But again, faced with certain situations, you have to expose the person's information out on Facebook or on any other type of social media site, in regards to this, that, the other. Let me tell you something. If you are 21 years of age or older, okay, and if you are still playing the exposing game, okay, where you're exposing someone's business online, on YouTube, or any social media outlet because you don't like what the person may have said or may have done to you, grow up, okay? It's time to grow up. Because again, that speaks on your character and that speaks on how mature you are not. So a lot of people speak on how mature they are, but through their actions, they show how immature they are. So again, if you are still exposing people, no matter how you're exposing them, again, it's 2017. It's time to grow up. It's time to stop with the kiddie games. And you see these petty childish behaviors. And again, it's from grown people. And that's why I mentioned if you're 21 years of age or older and you're still doing foolish stuff like that, again, it's time to grow up. It's time to get off the Similac. And then you wonder why other people around you are more prosperous and are more blessed than what you are. Take a look at yourself. Stand in the mirror and just really do some deep soul searching. Really think it over. If I'm never as prosperous as anyone around me, it could be the fact that you're not as humbled as you need to be. It could be because of the fact that you're not as mature as you need to be. So therefore, God sees that, and guess what? God's not going to put his hand on anything, and God's not going to allow any blessings to come to you when you're always being immature, when you're always having a negative mindset, when you're always going around just being flat out rude and disrespectful to people, just being petty, doing obnoxious, petty, disrespectful things that God wouldn't even stand for, and so that's just something to think about. So again, that's why I made the video, because, and this is something that I see going on a daily basis, and personally with myself, just from personal experiences, dealing with people in my personal life, who thought they're just going to come for me about any other thing. Because I'm the type of person, no matter who you are, if you come to me claiming about how mature and grown up you are, and you come to me with childlike foolishness, I'm just going to put you in your place. And I'm going to remind you that you need to work on being more mature. You need to work on submitting more. You need to work on being more humble, being more patient. Because again, your actions speak louder than your words. And too many people are around here talking the talk, but you're not walking the walk. And it gets to the point that you got to shut up and just put up. So again, hopefully, this is not a bashing video. This is just a video, more or less, of words of encouragement for people to just focus on being more humbled. And again, if you are a person that you are humbled, I would encourage you to, because being on that side, being humbled, being more and more patient, and there's times where I get frustrated because I'm like, okay, God, I'm being humbled, I'm being patient, but I have to go through this. But I would encourage you, don't give up faith. Always trust in God. Put God first in everything that you do. Because when God's hand is on you, and when the favor, the unmerited favor and blessings of God is upon you and on your life, it doesn't matter who comes at you with any form of negativity. It's never going to work, because God will not allow it to work, because his hand of covering is constantly over you. It's constantly on your life. So just always keep that in mind, okay? So again, hopefully this video can be a light of encouragement and positivity, for whoever it needs to be, encouragement and light of positivity to and for. Guys, leave your comments below in the comment section. Let me know what you think about the video. As time progresses and comes along, I will be going ahead and posting different videos online, okay, guys? So again, I do thank you guys for your time. Love you guys. Guys, be blessed. And remember, no matter what you do in life, always put God first, because he would never leave you nor forsake you, and he's the only one that would never fail you. So if anyone else in this world, in this life, fails you, if they disappoint you, upset you, I can assure you from experience, God will never fail you, and God will never disappoint you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. So be blessed. Enjoy the rest of your night. Thanks, guys. Bye.